Revolutionary greetings, comrades. Hope you can hear me from wherever you are. Our pleasure and happy to see you joining us today. It's another session for us this Saturday, where we're looking forward to assess the continent in terms of news update on whether we are ready really for liberation and unification and development of Africa. Are the issues going on the ground clearly indicate whether we as Africans are ready for the change, for the liberation, for the unification, and for the development of Africa? It's a whole continent. And there's a black society and a black nation across the globe. We will be having actually a presentation by Ndadema Fole on a program called Readiness for Change in the next 45 minutes. So feel most welcome. In 45 minutes time, we'll be starting up Ndadema Fole will be joining us to give us a presentation, which will be part 2 of his program on Readiness for Change. So feel most welcome. Ndadema Fole is joining us already. So in this first bit, we will be taking time to look at the continent. Basically, the news across the continent from wherever you are. Are there symptoms, signs that can indicate that we as a people are either moving towards unification, moving towards liberation of Africa, or either are we moving towards the development of Africa? As usual, I'll be scrolling the continent slowly, but I will ask members here to share with us what's going on from wherever you are, and let us know if what's going on there, is it really geared towards us as a people moving towards our unification, moving towards our development, or our liberation as a people. So this is a Saturday class of Consciousness Study Group. Consciousness Study Group has 3 classes per week. One is on Tuesday, which I do teach Kiswahili as a language for unifying the continent. And on Thursday, we do have a philosophical class, which is our main class, where we read the philosophy and ideology of Kwame Nkrumah called Consciousnism. And on Saturdays, we do have our meeting where we check on specifically the unification of Africa. So we assess various issues, we have various presentations to really understand what are we doing in terms of our unification. Apart from this, we have gone extra bell, of course. Our all class recordings are always available on our YouTube channel, which is Consciousness Study Group. We also avail these recordings links on our Twitter channel, on our Facebook page. But beyond that, we've also set up, we are setting up Pan-African technical working groups to work on the liberation and unification of Africa in various aspects from economics, education, health, and so many other things. This started when we marked the Africa Liberation Day, and the documentations are in place. We are looking at policies for communication, policies for reporting, evaluation, and everything is almost ready. So once everything will be ready, we will be calling out to all Pan-Africans wherever you are. If you are willing to join us, if you are willing to be a part of any committee to advance this, because our biggest goal is looking towards how do you have a unified document or a unified roadmap for health as a continent, for education as a continent, for governance and politics as a continent. What is the documentation? What's the legal, or how do we come up with a continental constitution? So this is being worked on, and soon we'll be ready to start the process once we finish the documentation. So thank you very much once again. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Pijino Dimwengu. I am the topical issues and everything that goes by. Our chair is Kwame Gonza, Christian Kwame Gonza from Ghana, who is a teacher in UK. Once again, feel most welcome, and please share with us what's going on in your continent in regard to assess whether is your country or is the continent moving towards unification, liberation, or development of Africa. I'll start by Sister Tapua. I see you, Sister Tapua. I see you, Ahmed Kashalia. I think you're a new member to our class. Feel most welcome. Mukangwa Magodi, feel most welcome. Ndadema Fole is with us. Sister Tapua is with us. I see Brother Sam from South Africa is with us. Francis Mlewa, also feel most welcome. So let's start with the updates from wherever you are. I'll start by saying from Kenya, I know many people have been looking towards Kenya. There are a lot that has been coming out. I know there was a conference, I think still going on, where Dr. Chiombora, Professor Lumumba, and then we are also having Maponga, Bishop Maponga. I joined it for almost the first hour. Before I left, I'm told it has been bombarded by Zumbu banning. but they were looking at Africa at a context and what's going on in Kenya, where Bishop Maponga is saying that the older generation must apologize to the younger generation for actually the older generations has in one way failed the younger generation towards the liberation of Africa. The older generation has also contributed and supported a system that could not work to the liberation of Africans. So that's going on. As I will say, in Kenya, there has been series of protests from Kenya, and these protests are actually younger people going against the IMF or neo-colonial measures that are being put in place. That's through taxations and many other things that the President Ruto has been enjoying for a period of time. It started from rejection of finance bill like a month ago. The people actually broke into the parliament. The police officers killed so many young people. Many are still being killed and abducted. The president actually ended up to dissolve his cabinet. That's what's going on in Kenya. And then after that, we realized that after the cabinet was dissolved, the president just recently called, first of all, for dialogue, but the opposition party came in to actually, opposition came in to call to join the government in an action. The opposition want to join the government so that they can have a government of national unity. But just yesterday, the president decided to reinstate the cabinet that he has recalled, and he has just recycled the old people. Like in two positions, he removed one of the deputy aspirant of the Minister of Education. He removed Minister of Education, who was an aspirant under the president party for gubernatorial seats, then introduced the deputy of that governor back to ministry so that the minister goes away and his deputy come in. Then in another situation, he has removed the Minister of Agriculture, where they were all fired, and introduced back his permanent PA, which is assistant to the Minister of Agriculture. Then he has recycled some members. In fact, he has taken a woman who was, of course, a lawyer, but hasn't practiced law, and appointed her to the position of Attorney General. And that has also caused a lot. And so we've seen a lot of so many things that are coming here and there. And that's what's going on in Kenya so far. The protests are still ongoing, and they're looking forward to more and more protests coming up soon. So basically, that's what I can report in Kenya. We are looking forward to Tuesday. We'll be having a mega protest here. And to me, I can say is a level of younger people waking up to the bigger call of rejecting the neo-colonial measures. So in one way, is a step towards separating the continent. So that's what I can say as update from Kenya. So I'll allow members to also share their updates. Who is this, Bob? Bob?
What? Hello?
Yes, Bob?
What is this?
What?
What is this call?
Niggers! 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 Niggers!
Sorry for that. Indeed, you had put on some measures. We knew they might be bombarding us. So I'd put some measures so that they could not be able to share their videos. The only thing that I'd stop is what I've forgotten to make measures was only to unmute themselves. But we are safe. We can proceed. So, yes, members. Sister Tapua? Sister Tapua.
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry, I'm not going to be doing any talking today. Thank you. Okay. I'll just be listening.
Okay, noted. Brother Raspala from South Africa, any update? Then Brother Simon might also come in from South Africa.
Okay, General. No, man. Can someone else go ahead? I'm still fixing some things. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to Brother Joseph. Greetings from the Caribbean. Any update from there first?
Yes, just one update is that good afternoon and good morning, whatever time zone you are in, brothers and sisters, comrades. In the Caribbean, what I can talk about is that the delayed heads of government, CARICOM heads of government conference will take place from the 28th of July to the 30th of to the 30th, from 20th to the 30th of July. This year it was scheduled to take place from the 3rd initially, but because of the hurricane, it was rescheduled. So it will take place. I think people should pay attention to that because a lot of things is happening that is not favorable to us in the Caribbean. So that's all I would say for now. And also, I think more and more people are tuning into what's happening in Kenya. So let's hope that will be inspiring enough to help them to move to. So that's
Okay,
it.
Brother Joseph. Yes, Brother Joseph?
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, I said, did you hear what I said previously?
Yes.
So I say that's it. That's it for now. I will pause here for now and
Okay.
maybe later on. Yeah.
Okay, Brother Francis Mlewa, what's going on in your country? Are you seeing the actions moving towards our unification, our liberation, our development, or what is going on from wherever you are? Comrade Francis.
Yeah, in Tanzania, I'm coming from Tanzania, but I don't have any issue from Tanzania. Yes.
There is this opposition leader who is coming in Tanzania. Who is his name? Francis. I'm aware there are
from Chadema.
Is it from Chidema? There's a person, I don't know, is from Chidema who has been calling for the Tanzania to emulate the example of what the Kenyan young people are doing. Okay, no problem. But how do you see the landscape in Tanzania in regards to when is your election? And how do you see either Suluhu making it or what's going on? Francis? Okay.
Yeah, the election is next year, 2025. Yeah, do you hear me?
Okay. Okay, no problem. Let's go to Ahmed Kashaila. Comrade, just unmute yourself, introduce yourself maybe from where you're joining us. And how do you see the things at play where you are? Is there symptoms or evidence of a unified or actions towards unification of our continent, liberation of our continent, or what do you see where you are?
Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed Kachalia. I'm audible, right?
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you very much. It's the first time that I've joined the meeting such as this. And my interest is obviously in Pan-Africanism. Despite the fact that it's our first engagement, I would like to think that we need to cement relationships, build foundations, and take concrete steps towards building a revolutionary blueprint. However, in terms of what has happened in South Africa, I think that all comrades are aware that we are in a government of national unity. Given that we're in a government of national unity, there's also a serious call for a national dialogue that should be undertaken in South Africa. And it is envisaged to be a watershed moment for the progress of South Africa and its people, and also Africa and the balance of the world. So what that seeks to produce is a binding compact on all of government and all the people of South Africa in the process of consultation, which is akin to certain events. One of them is the Congress of the People in 1955. The other is the Codesas and so on and so forth. The underlying issue is that this should be the voice of the collective South African from the grassroots up. And obviously there are some concerns. And the concerns are based on the fact that the oldest liberation movement has lost 17% in the election. And what then does that do to the unification of Africa? So the effective contribution of the organization called the ANC in terms of the national dialogue remains questionable in the absence of relevant comrades within the ANC that are not tainted. And unfortunately, the ANC seems to be contributing to its own political irrelevance. So in terms of how we fix this for a better South Africa and Southern Africa and obviously Africa, and looking at the unification of Africa would mean that that house needs to be got back into order. And the difficulty, obviously, is that the owner of the process of renewal is the very elements for which renewal is necessary. And in the main, without generalization, and obviously the state of capture and also the corruption that is systemic in South Africa needs really to be dealt with if it is to be a relevant player on the African continent. So we need to consider a few things. Obviously, the strategic sacrifices that a government of national unity would bring into play, and what then does that do to the foreign policy of South Africa, given that it is a relevant economy within the diaspora. So I'm sorry that I'm ranting on. Obviously, I've declared that I have joined this for the first time,
Okay.
and I may be more relevant in our next meeting.
Thank you very much. That's what we are actually looking for. Feel most welcome for joining us. Of course, we'll have to assess that unification at a broader length, because you see, like in Kenya, there's a call for unification. But sometimes the political unification do not actually mean the unification of a people, because realize it's the unification of the political class, the elites, who end up unifying for the purpose of advancing the welfare of the political class. Do the unification of the government of national unity in South Africa also really reflect towards the unification of Africans, and especially when the black ANC now unites with the DA, which is white? What is the thinking on the grounds of the majority ordinary South Africans in regards to that unification? Because I believe that a lot of things have been said in South Africa in regards to who are the owners of the land, and they believe a majority of land and property are still in the hands of the white. And when you call for the unification of the ANC and the DA, I'm not that racism, and we're not advancing racism, because we believe all human beings come from one matter, therefore there's only one human race. But how do that sit with the South Africans? Do the unification of the political class then actually removes the problems between the DA supporters and the ANC and EFF supporters as South Africans as well? How do you see it in that regard? And I would like Brother Sam also Matua from the Pan-African Congress of Tanzania can also weigh in into this, because we really want to examine that unification. Brother Hamid.
Yes, certainly. I think that the contradictions in politics, and also the fact that you have many enemies that would want to sideline the unification of Africa and also the unification of people. I mean, I think that we can't look at this in the absence of the influence of geopolitical forces towards those resources that are responsible for the lifestyle of Western Europe. So given that that is the situation, I think that there are many enemies. And the question that we ask is, who must fix this? Because if you have a population of 19 or 20% that is susceptible to the politics of populism, then surely the solutions to this would be to get all of the population under one roof, if I may, through this process of the national dialogue, where there is political literacy and understanding of the new politics in terms of how the West and world forces and geopolitics will affect this. So I think that much work needs to be done. There seems to be a depoliticization of thinking within the South African populace. After elections, after the first elections in 1994, it was as if we have reached a kumbaya moment. And obviously, we're very far from that. I think that the critical issue is that the unification around issues that are political need to be dealt with in a pragmatic way. And that pragmatic way is to understand that poverty unemployment and inequality needs really to be addressed. And apart from that, I think that the reading for understanding at a young age is critical in the ability for society then to be able to understand the political innuendo when it comes to relevant matters of how we as a continent then should be able to face competition in the global village. And in that, our unification as Africa is going to really create a powerhouse structure that is going to be second to none. But the work needs to be done on the ground. I hope I'm not out of order, Chairperson, but I think I should stop there.
Thank you. I want to bring Brother Sam Mutua from Moshao. Yeah, Brother Sam.
Thank you, and thanks to Comrade Kachalia. Thanks for the submission. I just want to make first upfront that I'm speaking here on my personal capacity, not on behalf of my organization, the PAC. The situation for me in South Africa is the government of national unity. You know what is happening? The ANC being rejected by the voters. According to me, they decided on themselves what is the best way to keep ourselves intact and salvage whatever we can. But the fact of the matter is the ANC has been in decline for a long time. They represent retrogression. They represent corruption in South Africa, including the president, the current sitting president. So really, we could not believe, or I can't believe that we expect the government of national unity to do miracles. When the ANC had a majority, they failed for 30 years to change whatever situation, because the African National Congress has never been pro-total and complete liberation of the African people. So for me, we must understand this government of national unity in that respect. The fact of the matter is they didn't go. You know, when you come to a situation like that, you rather go to a referendum and say, what do the people want? They might have voted the way they voted, but ask them, what do you want? Why did we choose the issue of this alliance of the African National Congress with the DA over the alliance of the African people who are the majority, basically, where the ANC would come into unity or in alliance or in agreement with the other African parties like MK Party, which had a large chunk of the vote, and the EFF, and all other respective parties. The only snack that I have is I cannot explain to you how I feel about my own organization having gone to be part of this government of national unity. You know, a year ago, we said the African National Congress and the ANC as the ruling party and the government in South Africa is a government of national disaster. So how do you, after they have been defeated, almost depleted to nothingness, go and join them? For me, that is retrogressive, especially from a Pan-Africanist inclined organization. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'll give Brother Joseph, but there's one thing I want to weigh in, because that South African example has been a classical example that I know Brother Joseph has been also wishing that we discuss. But here, another thing that come in. How about the political ego between the black people? For example, were the MK willing really to sit with the ANC or EFF, combine effort with the ANC so that they can form the black coalition of a general government of national unity between the black political parties? Or did the personal egos then overshadowed our bigger unity aspect of having the blacks uniting to liberate the black people in South Africa? Because that might be an example. Because if the DA came in to support ANC in a coalition, but the ANC could not actually be work, or MK or EFF could not be willing to come in board and work with ANC. What does that show? Does it show that we are still having internal struggle and competition between us as a people of blacks, and that is derailing our aspects of looking yonder for our unification as a people? I'll request for any response from any of you, either Brother Ahmed or Brother Sam, as Brother Joseph also weigh in. But let me ask Brother Joseph to weigh in first, then you can respond. We'll be having our presentation in the next around 20 minutes by Ndadema Follow is joining us now. We are still taking up news update across the continent as we weigh them towards the unification and learn something out of it. Brother Joseph, go in, then our brothers from South Africa can respond.
Yeah, thank you to the two brothers from South Africa for their contribution. I'm going to ask a question, and Brother Sam is already familiar with my interest in South Africa. In terms of, and even against the backdrop of the question you just asked also, the fact that for instance, EFF was promoting land without compensation, and also that the immigration that South Africans, all Africans have a right to be in South Africa against some of the opposition. Do you think that, for instance, the whites could use the land without compensation as an issue to divide and to confuse people? And then on the side of the African itself, the issue of immigration help to even scatter people even more in terms of the unity, the cause of unity. I hope I'm very clear in what I'm trying to ask. Because to me, there are two issues, fundamental issue here. Land, as Malcolm X said, land is the basis of independence. Without land, you can't consider yourself independent. And then, of course, the fraternity, the solidarity with other Africans who are in South Africa. I mean, the treatment that some South Africans give to the neighboring folks. Isn't that something that really played against the unity of the Africans? Talking about the Black Africans.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Brother Sam or Brother Ahmed, this is actually, as I've said, our class is called Consciousism Study Class, and Consciousism is a philosophy by Kwame Nkrumah. Some people call it Nkrumahism. So we meet, and our mini class is on Thursday, where we read the philosophy and ideology of Kwame Nkrumah, written in his book Consciousism. And this is in fact a prescription on how Africa should decolonize Africa by liberating, unifying, and developing Africa. So we do that reading, and we've been doing it for the last 2 years, and it has been going on for the last 10 years. But Saturday, we set it aside to actually assess the unification of Africa as the key pillar towards the liberation of Africa. So Saturday, we discuss about the unification of Africa, what the rough measures should we take, what must be done in order to attain that as Pan-Africans. And it's just a class for learning, creating awareness, and building our consciousness as having now a tool, which is a philosophical and ideological tool that can guide us in the process of liberation, unification, and development of Africa. Hope that's very clear. So, Brother Sam or Brother Ahmed, can you try, maybe if you are able, to respond of some of the few questions Brother Joseph has raised, and as well as the concern I've raised from my side?
I'm not sure that I'm able to, but I certainly will try, Chairperson. What I think we need to understand with regard to the land redistribution is that there are constitutional provisions in place for the redistribution of land as it is. Although the issue here is political will that may be lacking, that's the first issue. And the second issue is the feeding trap. So there needs to be leverage for whoever else is going to be able to attain land through a constitutional means. And this is cause for concern. So that's one of the questions. And the other issue is that land is inextricably linked to the financial system. And these would need to be undone. The other issue that we need to grapple with is the inability for landowners or those that have the right to land within tribal enclaves to not have access to title deeds for that land. And that then adds to other economic issues in terms of the ability to finance your economic activities to a point where you become viable. So there are those underlying issues to the main issue, which is land redistribution. So that's on the one hand with regard to land. But on the other hand, is you have a situation where the unification of black parties, if I may, in the guise of MK and EFF, remember that they are both splinters from the ANC. And the issue here is that a lot of the comrades that are within those organizations are tainted to one degree or another. And there are many court cases in the process to be able to bring those to book. But be that as it may, I think that the issue for the unification of Africa would make those issues within South Africa a South African problem to deal with, and create then a conducive environment to contribute effectively to the unification of Africa in terms of what this group is set up to achieve. I think I should stop there and
Thank you.
say
Thank you. Yeah, you just finish.
I said I say I should stop there, and I say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution as well. Ndadema Fole will be presenting in the next close to 10 minutes on Readiness for Change. Is a program that must assess what is our fear, what's stopping us from actually waking up to take over what we need in terms of the unification and liberation of Africa. Brother Sam, do you have anything to add on? Brother Sam?
Yes, Chairperson. Yeah, my addition is simply to say, in South Africa, if we don't put things properly in context, a lot of meaning is going to be lost. And the first fundamental issue is that South Africa is a colonial issue that has put the situation where it is currently. So until we resolve the fundamental issue that land must be restored to its rightful owners, which is the African majority in South Africa, everything else that we are doing is reformist, what they call land reform. It is not going to restore the ownership of the land to the ultimate African majority. And that is fundamental. And that is why the ANC has not been able to do this, because they moved from the Freedom Charter that said South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And therefore, when they made the constitution in Codesa, they made sure that they safeguard that aspect by coming up with the property clauses that are enshrined in that constitution. Therefore, we are unable to really move in that direction. And that is why most of us, including the EFF, including MK Party, they didn't want to get into agreement, because their standpoint was only on the basis that the land will be returned to its rightful owners, which the ANC could not get into agreement with. And they got into agreement with the Democratic Alliance, which their standpoint says you will not even touch the constitution to try and change what is enshrined there, that is protecting the white former colonialists.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder Sam. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, indeed, I'll be moving to Elder Sifwe if there's any update from his side. But I think we must also, as you've said, put historical context into this. Because there were 3 countries probably in Africa where the white man wanted to make it their countries and make it white man countries in Africa. And South Africa, unfortunately, became one of them that succeeded by them declaring their independence in South Africa, which means it's like they got their independence from their same fathers in the West, which is the England or whatever, and then they declared that South Africa was their country. Well, they were not, the same way they did it to Canada. They wanted to do it in Kenya and Zimbabwe. And that's why it's very hard that when the South Africans were fighting for the black independence, it was black independence from white who are ready to gain their independence from their fellow white brothers. So it's very actually a situation that is very sensitive, unlike any other situation in the continent, and it's a place that is succeeding. It was to succeed in Zimbabwe, and it was to succeed in Kenya, thanks to Mau Mau that stopped this. But yes, Elder Sifwe, weigh in a bit to give us update from your side and maybe reaction to the context in South Africa as well. We will be doing our presentation in the next maybe 9 minutes by Ndadema Fole, who I think is ready now. Elder Sifwe?
Greetings, comrades. I don't have too much to say other than here in Guinea-Bissau, we are experiencing a ever-increasing dictatorship backed by ECOWAS forces, unwanted, being put in place to, for whatever reasons, protect President Sissoko. Unfortunately, that hasn't united the people. Everybody is suffering, and it hasn't united the people in Guinea-Bissau on what to do or how to do it. It's just created more political competition. And so with respect to tonight's question, the unification of Africa, are we ready? I'm simply saying, no, we are not ready. There's nowhere on the continent where I see the people that have been unified. More importantly, if we are talking about a unification of the African people, then the African people are going to need structures through which to put flesh on the unification leading towards a united African states. I would venture to say that until we see those structures, a single political campaign that has national coordinating committees that are comprised of all the different various organizations, trade unions, et cetera, with broad participation of the people, with the single goal of holding some kind of unification Congress that would put into effect the sovereignty that resides in the people. Until we see those structures, then the practical answer to that question is no, we're not ready. We can talk about it ideologically. We can look at various protests to gauge the temperature of the people's frustration. But being frustrated in protest does not indicate our readiness. Our readiness from a political standpoint comes from having the maturity to understand we're going to need campaign structures, a single united structure for the entire continent. And we don't have that yet. And I don't see any platform where that's the main agenda. I yield.
Yeah, thank you, Elder Sifwe. You are raising a very important issue because you see, even when we are now doing what you call the registrations of movements or associations in Africa, there is lack of a single body within either if you have to call it Africa Union or any other continental organization that can then have a registered organization that are Africa in a continental basis. So you have so many things being registered in small countries, calling them country-based thing. And this is still taking us far away from where we should be. Yes, there's actually need for a continental structure. And then we should work on that. Because I remember, as I've said, when we ended the Africa Liberation Day as a consciousness study group, we have thought of how we bring towards various technical working groups to start working on a common document for the whole continent, like a blueprint for the unification, for example. If you look at a medical aspect example in health sector, we are looking at how do we do research, assess the information and the data available so that we can come up with a blueprint on how should the health system in Africa be run. What is the blueprint that should be copied? Where is the unification point? Because we can start by unification in practice of activities. Like if we can't be reading or learning the same Afrocentric curriculum across the continent in respect of different countries, as we move towards removing the so-called barriers to one, then we can still be united. This actually has been lacking, as you're saying, Elder Sifwe, and these are technical and what you call them, there are structural challenges that we are still missing in terms of the unification of Africa, because there's a serious structural loophole on how the African move as a team, you see, in regards to education, constitutionality, every aspect, including military, transport, telecom systems. There's lack of unified structural mechanisms. And I think these are put in place by intention and or by design. And therefore, we need to see how do we come up with structures that can overcome this so that we move towards the unification. Because no matter how successful one country can be in Africa, if the whole continent is not moving towards success, then that country cannot stand alone. It will be affected by its neighbors or so-called countries that are actually playing at the mercy or for the interests of the West in Africa. As Nkrumah said, our balkanization is not to our interest, it's to their interest. So thank you, Elder Sifwe, for that contribution. And yes, we look forward to how can we discuss that progressive way forward as a people, because that is
the
what
revolution.
we are focused on. Yes, Brother Sadiki?
The revolution that's taking place in with the AES has the best outlet for that, you know, for changing, making that change and creating that initiative of changing the dynamics that was what's going on in Africa right now. Because the revolution needs to remove those who's the puppets of the puppet masters, you know, and by these individuals staying in position of power was hindering our ability to progress and implement some of these ideas in which you're reflecting on. I'm a Garveyite from the UNIACL. I'm Division 178 from Philadelphia. Garvey had the infrastructure, he had the ideas, he had the concept. He gave us our first flag, which is the red, black, and green flag. The Constitution of the UNIA follows all the structures that we need as a people on the continent. But once again, with the situation with having so many puppet leaders on the African continent as part of the struggle, you know, the AES has the answer for it right about now. You know, it's a revolution. It's going to take a revolution. You know, we can have things in place, but the revolution has to continue on. Right now, once again, so I follow the AES. I think that they have the best structure that's going on right about now to help Africa move in the direction that it needs to go. And many African leaders see the potential of it, but they're so entrenched with these puppet masters that they're afraid to step out of that comfort zone. One thing they know that they'll lose their power. I don't think the influence, the intimidation of assassination is no longer in place like it was, because it's not as open. I mean, it's not as hidden anymore. So they can easily be exposed like that, like what was going on with Ibrahim Traoré. You know, they're being exposed. France is being exposed. America's being exposed, knowing the fact they didn't want to take out this great Black leader right now, but they don't have access to him like that by Brother Ibrahim connecting with Russia and Putin has given him security, comfort, and we, even though Russia has never colonized us, has never shown us any lack of support. Ibrahim Traoré and the AES partners are showing that by having an ally like Russia and having the support system and the security that's necessary to move forward to making the continent independent. We've never had that before. We've never had it in sense of what is going on right now in the AES. You have Russia supporting the AES. You have China. You have Iran. you have Turkey. We've never had that kind of revolutionary support that these individuals given us. And I believe that's where we need to continue with what is happening in West Africa and with the AES. I believe that's where the change is happening. You know, without a revolution of removing individuals who's running these so-called African countries, we're not going to move anywhere. So right now, we need to continue to throw our support with the AES, and we can move forward from there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me first of all confirm with the Ndadema Fole. Ndadema Fole, are you in a stable network to do your presentation? Because you have been on and off. Can you let me know before we proceed?
Well, I'm in it. I'm using a Wi-Fi. I'm using I can use my own personal network from my company I have from the US. Right now, I'm here in Kenya.
Oh, we would love to meet Brother Sadiki. I'm equally in Kenya. We might make an arrangement because I'm in Kenya and I'm a Kenyan. We would like to make an arrangement and see how we can. Yes.
Yeah, I would love to build with you, brother. I would love to build with you. You know, you can catch me on my my WhatsApp. I don't care if anybody's online with it, but you know, first you can hit me up on my email, doinggarvey at gmail.com. You know, doinggarvey.
Just share your email privately with me, the host, so that we can get in touch. I'm trying
How do you do that?
Okay, I'm trying to check on Ndadema Fole. Mafole, you're supposed to do a presentation, but you've been on and off. Is your network stable enough to help you do the presentation?
I'm just hoping, because as you noticed, I had 2 blackouts.
So can we allow you to do a brief presentation on what you have to do on our readiness for change? Then we can react later, maybe as brief as you can, or maybe as the time can allow you and your network.
Okay.
Okay, I'm making you a coach, so start working on everything else as you set up, as you take some reaction in regards to this, so that you prepare your screen and everything else being ready. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so you are coach. So yes, let me pick it a bit from where Brother Sadiki is saying, because there's an element of unification that is coming up, and it is very important that we see how we move forward towards actualizing the real unification as a people. And you see, as it appears, is that from what is going on in West Africa, the support Russia is giving is not the first time Russia is coming to Africa. Even during the struggle for liberation of Africa, the majority of the Russian helped some of the liberation movement in Africa to actually advance the struggle for liberation. So it's not the first time this is coming. But also we must realize that, as Nkrumah cautioned us, that once a territory is liberated, for it to sustain its liberation, there's a need for unification. So there's a need for the unification of liberated territories, as the same way now the Sahel is trying to form some unification network for them to sustain their liberation, because without their unification, they are prone to attack. They are prone to, of course, counter-revolutionary forces trying to bring them down. We are all aware that there have been attempts to try to bring them down. So they are not safe enough. And if we don't realize how important is our unity, to unite with them, to give them that support is very important. So the problem in the continent today is that the majority of the countries in the continent are still under the hands of the puppet. And this is the biggest challenge. So how do we take it back to be under the hands of progressives who can then move the discussion forward to a unified continent? Anybody who thinks about this? Brother Mokgwa, please. See your hand is up. Mokgwa or Mogwa. You can come in as Brother Ndadema Fole is preparing. Magodi. Magodi? Okay. If Magodi is not able to do this, anybody, Sister Sheren, Sister Shaza, any updates or contribution to the discussion?
Greetings, brother. I've just joined. Is that in regards to news or whatever's happened locally? Is that what it is? Hello, brother.
Hello, sister.
Greetings. Is this the part where we talk about any news or any updates in that regard, or?
Yeah, we are later bit. We are taking still updates from wherever you are. So, Ndadema Fole is trying to share his screen for a brief presentation. Ndadema Fole, we cannot still see your document, so you can move to the PDF next day and share it. But already you are sharing your screen. Yes, Sister Shaza?
There was some news that was floating around about some footballers who are from Argentina, and they were criticizing a lot of African footballers for saying that they're French when their origins are from Cameroon or any of the French colonized countries in Africa. They're representing France and they're actually saying that they're French. So there was what was deemed as a racist kind of messages or statements that were being flown around by the Argentinian football team. I can't mention any names in particular because this is something that was kind of undercurrent. It wasn't in the newspapers per se, but it has caused quite a furore in regards to just footballers being playing globally and potentially not representing their own African countries, but playing for European countries and always being under scrutiny, even though they are the most talented players that are playing for these countries and teams also. So I don't know if anyone else in the UK has anything else to feed back, but that was something that was going around because obviously a lot of Nazis moved to Argentina many years ago, like around World War II days or so. So there's that rhetoric that is constantly being ricocheted around, along with this this disdain about that comment around African footballers and stuff. But then there just always seems to be a problem when African footballers are playing for European countries. Like even the players who the black players who represented England in the Euro 2024 just gone. They've had a barrage of racial abuse for many years, and the fact that they didn't win this time, they got to the semi-finals, they didn't win, Spain won. There was still a lot of racist memes, racist comments on social media, but just the literal chopping down of these young brothers. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because they've worked so hard and they do work so hard, but it just also shows you how you can just be disposed of within seconds. You win, they love you. You lose, they hate you. So that's been quite a thing. Also, just the state of the NHS, the National Health Service. We don't pay for medical care in the UK because our taxes, when collected, there's a part of the budget that is allocated towards the National Health Service. So a lot of people use that service for free medical care. Well, inverted commas free, even though it's taken out of our wages as tax or our income or our the money that we make is put into a pot and as part of the the budget and a potential and percentages of it go on say arms or stuff like that, the NHS, education, etc. But the NHS is declining. We have a new Labour government. We were Conservative. We're now Labour. And we're just really interested to see what this Labour government is going to bring to the table. Because we just feel that they're the same. So just basically, that's that really.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sister Sharon. I think we need to have a session to look at the black talents. We have Brother Howard Gale in our midst. He was the first black person to play for Liverpool. We are trying to work on something for sports for Haiti solidarity, and I think it will be important to bring him in, especially to look at the angles of racism to our brothers abroad who play for those countries and how they're treated or mistreated, and how can we combine our efforts towards bringing something to the continent and helping our black brothers to retain their talents here and build the talents within the continent. So it's something I will have to discuss with Howard Gale, and if he will be willing, maybe he will do a presentation to us on any Saturday, combining with also what you are saying today. Thank you, Sister Shireen.
Thank you. And also, Brother Pigeon, just to add as well, they are highly paid, and how many of them look toward Africa or the diaspora? That's another question that needs to be addressed as well. How many of them are Africa facing? Because a lot of them make all of this money and they do you know what I mean? They forget about the diaspora in Africa as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we've run very late to our presentation, and Ndadema Fole can pick this. Ndadema Fole is doing the second session of this presentation, and is trying to check on the psychological and behavioral challenges that you're facing as a people that is need to be worked on in order for us to tune to the mentality of change as an African. Brothers, if we said that, yes, as far as you can see, we are like not really ready for unification or for change as a continent. And let's get from Ndadema Fole. The first presentation he did, we have uploaded and shared the recording, and I can be able to avail it anytime. So Ndadema Fole, sorry for taking my time, but I also know you had some technical challenges. Please feel free to proceed.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all my colleagues, our other colleagues. As we continue presenting and sharing, we continue to learn more about the issues of readiness. And today, I intend to focus or maybe to highlight the issue of personal envisioning, having a big dream. How does that relate to freedom? And in my other presentations, I've had some challenges with people maybe not quite clear from the beginning where we are headed. So I am changing a little bit. What we need to appreciate is that our behavior is controlled by our own perceptions and controlled by our genes and how our brains are wired. So maybe I'll just give a brief introduction to that. I will illustrate how that happens. On the screen, you have at the center there a picture of our brain, which is divided into two: the subconscious mind, which controls 95% of all our thinking and learning, and the other part, the conscious part, which controls 5% or so. These are controlled in the subconscious mind by our belief systems. What do we believe in? What values do we have? Values that guide us towards achieving what we want to achieve. As the whole African nations or African citizens, our vision and our vision for the future is a united and vibrant Africa. Now, how do we get there? We get there by individually committing to a big dream. What role are we going to play? What part are we going to be playing in that? And those belief systems will create our values. What are the guidelines? What values are we going to have to adopt in order to get to the united and vibrant Africa that we want? So our belief systems and our values together form our culture. What type of culture do you want to have as the African continent? What cultures do we have at national levels? And are they unified cultures? Are they beneficial? And these are the things that we use. Culture and values and belief systems are what we use to respond to our challenges. We respond to the challenges of our very highly volatile now, ambiguous, uncertain and complex world. When we get challenges, they come as messages into our brains. Then we have perceptions about them, how we will react to them. And our perceptions, according to Bruce Lipton, who's written the book, The Biology of Belief, that goes to the perception unlocks our DNA to go and write on the surface of our genes, which is a subject that is called epigenetics. And that forms what our conscious, subconscious mind uses for us to respond to our situations. How does that act? How do we get there? There are some things that are very important that we need to get to. We need to, excuse me. Oh, something went wrong here. Sorry, let me go back. We need to be able to look at what type of beliefs we have. Are they useful? And the challenge is that we have been wired for fear. And what we are fighting against, which is colonization, worked on our brains and indoctrinated us through inflicting fear onto us so that our brains can be rewired, hardwired for fear. And what then happens is, when we have a perception, the perception then rises on the gene. And what then happens is that the messages will go under the current circumstances where we still want to decolonize. They will go to the part, the cognitive part of our brains that we use for responding, which is only responsible for 10% or less. And that is where colonization has locked our brains onto. But our brain is actually has the bigger part, which I said there's a subconscious mind, which deals with metacognition, which deals with higher thinking, intentional thinking, and learning how to learn. And when we decolonize, what we are doing is trying to get back to being able to use this bigger part of our brain, to use the whole of our brains, and to undo the indoctrination and the hardwiring of colonization and slavery and apartheid. What do we need? How do we do that? How do we unlock that? We need to start learning how to love so that we can open up the metacognition, the metacognitive domain. To do that, we need to practice, among other things, a very difficult thing, forgiveness. I'm sure we are aware, all of us, that forgiveness has been written a lot about, because what does it do to us? It helps to calm our brains, calm our minds, and when our minds are calm, then we are able to dream, have bigger dreams. We are able to envision. We are able to look at, we are able to look at how we are able to know ourselves. We are able to self-discover. We are able to appreciate even others. We are able to dream about where we should actually want to be in the future, create this ideal future. When we want a free and united Africa, what will be my role as an individual? Where will I be? What do I need to do? How will I be behaving then? How will I be thinking? And these are the type of questions that when the brain is unlocked and the mind is reprogrammed, we'll have to be considered, because we all need to have big dreams, like brother, the chairman, brother Pigburn, have a dream like our brother wants to, or actually ran for presidency in Kenya. If more of us have such dreams, maybe not to be president, all of us, but to have something very significant that will contribute to our unity. And for us to be able to do that, we need to learn how to dream. Fear locks our brains. It locks our brains. It locks our brains to think or to use that smaller part, the smaller cognitive part that I talked about. Fear causes blood to flow, a lot of more blood to flow to the fear center. And for us to react quickly, it engages our primitive mind, or our primitive brain, which we share with other animals. So every time we get a challenge, we become fearful. We want to defend ourselves. But the brain is wired in such a way that it should also think about how to respond to these things rather than responding through reflexes. But this reaction is the reaction that I talked about, that abuse, violence, colonization, apartheid has locked our brains into. This is the current state in which most of us are. And according to Levy, who's written a book on excessive fear, but he calls it Wetiko. The title is Wetiko, Healing the Mind Virus that is plaguing our world. Because he says that it has affected all of us. It affects all of us. When we heal, what we do is we train our brain so that blood can flow, more blood can flow to our thinking brain, the part, the prefrontal cortex, the part at the front of the forehead. When the messages get to that part, the frontal cortex, we start thinking properly about them. How will we react? How will you respond? What type of support do we need? Do we have adequate competencies and skills to be able to react to that? And once we've thought like that, blood and the message is sent back to the fear center to hold that speedy reaction when there is not a very serious threat. And then we respond. And then that is when we begin to use that metacognitive domain. And then, as I said, what we want to do is learn about, Levy says that it is not so useful now to try and convince people that they need to change, because it is not easy. This is what I've also experienced, that is not the easiest thing to try and convince people that they need to change. What needs to be done, according to Levy, is to help people to be able to dream, because when people have a dream, then they commit to it and they follow it. It gives them incentives. I have developed a model here which I based on somebody else's model on it's called Murakami's model on coincidences and synchronicity. At the top here, the small cycle inside here is where we connect with the collective mind, the collective unconscious. Because everything that we think of, everything that can be thought of, already exists in the collective, in the universal mind. But when our minds are calm, like when water is calm, you will notice that when you throw a pebble onto the surface of the water, you will see ripples. But if you throw even a huge stone rock inside a flooded river that is turbulent, you will not be able to see those ripples. In other words, when the mind is turbulent, when the mind is under fear, it is not easy to be able to think up the big things that we want to think about. So when we are calm, we are able to think of big dreams. We are able to envision. And once we repeat it consciously, it registers in our subconscious mind at the middle of the diagram there. And then it propagates outside of our own domain into the collective unconscious. And there, when it goes and returns to this is when we continue repeating to think about our dream. It comes back stronger. We can think about it daily, maybe at least 7-10 minutes every day, thinking about your dream, thinking about it before you go to fall asleep, so that the brain, as you sleep, because when we are asleep, the brain works on the things that we've not been able to build up during the day. This is why if we had problems, and if we had problems and challenges that we have not resolved, we get bad dreams in the night. But when we have resolved things, and when we program our mind to be able to think of a bright future, and we start thinking from that future how we will be, this is the relevance now of those questions that the metacognitive brain helps us to think about. The more you repeat day after day, the thicker or the stronger your vision. The more you repeat daily, 7-10 minutes, a few minutes before you fall asleep, you will start getting dreams of how you are going to implement your dream. And then even the way you are going to be able to implement it becomes easier. You get committed to it. And so that is the model. We go over it again. You think consciously about your future, what this united and vibrant Africa means to you. What does it look like? Where will you be in that united and vibrant Africa? What is your role? What will you be doing then? What are you going to do in order to help to realize it? And these are things that we need at the individual level. We need to ask ourselves on a daily basis, and we need to discuss them. And maybe in small groups, maybe not this weekly meetings, but in small groups, you get partners that you discuss your personal vision with, who you ask them to give you feedback on how you are doing every day. You have a plan for achieving your ideal self. And then when we've done that, we'll be working against, we are rebranding ourselves. Currently, this is the situation we are talking about. We've been talking about Kenya, we've been talking about South Africa, we're talking about Lesotho, we're talking about the whole world. Where are we? A lot of chronic stress, a lot of mass psychosis, a lot of what I said Levy calls wetiko, mind blindness, a lot of conflicts, corruption, crime, poverty, devastation. In other words, we are living in something like the other side of a dark valley, which is fostered by fear, which is fostered by fragmentation, by slavery, colonization, apartheid, a lot of suppression. Even the current economic model of, even though the owners call it a free market economy, it's not free. It is not unfettered. We are bound to ourselves. They have constricted us. Then they become free themselves. It's only free market economy for them, not for us. But where do we want to be? We want this freedom. We want this unity. We want to have quality peace. We want to be coherent. We want to have unity, high performances, well-being, and resilience. In quality peace is where everything is done to make sure that each one of the citizens in a nation are able to learn, they are able to improve the qualities of their lives, they are able to participate actively, and they are supported. Where there is no fear, no wanton fear, where we get rid of unnecessary hunger and starvation. And that is building a bridge to go over the colonization, to go over all the unnecessary sufferings. We still have to suffer when we go over this, because even a wound tells us exactly how healing will be. healing of the wound. When you have a wound, you lose blood, but quickly the skin closes up. The skin, you have a boil, and the skin expands. It becomes very sensitive. When it's sensitive, it becomes painful. Anything that touches that gives you pain. And that is what you need. The pain is there for you to be able to protect the wound so that it does not get infested again, so that it heals. And what is known to be able to do that is love, is using the energy, the natural energy that we have appropriately for love, where love is committing to doing things that help me to expand and grow in all aspects, spiritually, psychologically, physically, and economically. But then that growth should not be only for myself. It should be the growth to help me to grow and also to extend to help other people to grow, because none of us is self-sufficient. We depend on everything, whatever it is, the smallest thing that we use, the smallest, tiniest little bit of food or anything that we use depends on inputs from other people. So the only great life that we get for freedom is when we are in support of each other, when we add value to each other, when we collaborate. And I think, Comrade Chair, I think I want to stop at this today so that we can be able to discuss this. Then we can also always refer back to the other slides where colleagues have questions and maybe want some clarity or want to make some inputs.
Thank you so much, Adema Fole. Thank you very much for this. In fact, putting it to the context of where we are going as an Africa is really important for us. So, Adema Fole, once again, I do appreciate your presence, your presentation, and trying to work on what is very fundamental as a very important tool to our liberation and unification. I will be going around, and anybody who has questions, please just note it so that you'll have time to respond. What I'll be going around to, I'll be calling each name in my list. I'll give you maybe a minute or two, probably 2 minutes, maximum 3 minutes, to share your thinking in regards to the presentation of Adema Fole. Just put it on, Adema Fole. Can you leave the presentation on, the last bit of it, so that let us know what's your feedback in regards to the presentation. What can you relate to the presentation to the context of where we are in the struggle of liberation? And what are the questions can you put forth or add or ask? And how do you think about this in regards to our struggle for unification and liberation of Africa? So I'll go through the list, and if you call on your name, feel free to ask questions, contribute, or further this discussion towards the unification. What do you think we must do? Our key fundamental question is, what must be done? So I'll start by Monse Mabato. Then I'll go to Brother Joseph, in that order to Brother Ahmed. So let's start by Manto.
Good evening, everybody. I am Mabato Monse, currently in Tshwane, South Africa. So Ndate Mafole's work resonates with me, and I would like to just add a little bit to say one of the fundamental things colonization or the colonizers have been able to do is to separate people from their true identity. So ensuring that African people or indigenous people are so separated from who they are, and as a result from each other, which translates into not seeing the value of interdependence or interconnectedness, which if you look into indigenous knowledge systems, it has always been a thing of how people, African people, relate with each other. Understanding that I am because you are, and therefore your success becomes my success. And having this circular sort of like ecosystem where there is interdependence and therefore common vision and common purpose. And until we get to understand who we are in the context of the world and its politics, I think it will be very difficult to achieve any form of economic transformation or independence as African states. And so my recommendation would be working very hard at ensuring that African people and people of African descent remember who they are. Because if you don't know who you are, it will be very difficult to relate to the next person and to see how each of our success benefits, the whole ecosystem.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Brother Joseph?
Yeah, thank you, Brother Pigeon. And thank you, Brother Mafali. Always inspiring. In terms of what the presentation have triggered in me, first of all, there are two African proverbs that have remained with me since 1978. One of it says, not to know is bad, but not to want to know is worse. And also the other one is, he who asks questions cannot avoid the answers. And I think this is partly what Brother Mafali is on. We need to question ourselves. We need to question what motivates us. And I would say part of the problem is that shame has been one of the prevailing energy or emotion that have shaped who we are. So we vacillate between shame and blame. This is one. Also, we are not cognizant that the role advertising plays on affecting us. We are told that at least, and for an idea to internalize in your system, you have to hear it at least 28 times. There are many advertisements that play to our hearing or even in our vision and so on, that works on us subliminally. We tend to take it lightly, but this is something we need to begin to give cognizance. For instance, I would tell you, since 2005, I've refused to watch any violent production. Anything to do with violence, I've refused. And it have helped me enormously. I don't have to process those stuff that comes to my eyes, that comes to my ears, and affect my body. Also, what Brother Mafali talk about is what we've been doing. Dr. William Uri, the expert on conflict resolution, mention of a tribe, or please forgive me for saying the word tribe, nation, or group in Africa, which he learned, some basic things from. And he said one of the things where this group of people have little violence in their community is because from birth, the young people, the children are taught to share what they have, and also to be open, and also to try and solve problems among their peers. And if they can't, then they get somebody else outside the peer, and if not, get the adults. So there are ways of dealing with conflict with us. Most of us, we are taught to become, aggressive with each other. And finally, I heard, and I think it's very instructive. I heard a statement from one of the demonstrators in the Kenyan uprising. Now, I think maybe it's from today. That says, and I think it's instructive. And I might be paraphrasing it. It says, "As I lose my fear, you lose power over me. As I lose my fear, in other words, as fear is taken away from me, as I leave fear behind, I can face you as you are, whether you're a monster or whatever. Instead of running away, I can face you." I hope I've made sense to what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that quote is that when we lose our fear, they lose their power. That has been a famous quote that has been running in the street. But thank you for your input as well, Brother Joseph. Brother Ahmed, then Brother Sadiki, in that order. I'll read the sisters as we go along.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson. I think that what I've taken from this would be that we need really to identify challenges, understand objectively the nature of the challenge, and then respond appropriately. So having said so, we have to actuate a self-realization and then express it to a wider audience, especially in terms of what I've said when we started, in that it would then give us an opportunity to cement relationships around the anomalies that we would have been subjected to historically in order that we may find a future. We then have to build, obviously, the foundation and concretize steps towards building the revolutionary blueprint. And that, I think, is in a nutshell the way I understand this. And I think that much work needs to be done.
Thank you, Comrade. Yes. Thank you, Comrade. Yes, indeed. Nkrumah reminds us in the same book that we do read every Thursday that there are two aspects of people. There are those who are reformists and those who are revolutionaries. And those reformists still feel like there's a need to punch here, punch there, prepare this, do this. With the revolutionary things and look at it as they envision a total change of our system. But he also says that the revolution has two aspects. One is the revolution against the old, and two is the contest for the new. And finally, he added by saying that there must be positive action, what you call positive vibration or revolutionary forces that must start internally from an individual perspective, positive action at a personal capacity that must then spread to a community, to a country, to a bigger continent. Because the forces that are positive or forces that are for revolution must now unite to counter the negative forces that are also united. So the more the positive forces in a society, the more the area of success is higher, because the more you increase positive forces, which means more increased consciousness and revolutionary forces, the more you lower the probability and the percentage of negative forces. So thank you very much for that. Let me get to Brother Sadiki. Brother Sadiki?
Peace, family. Right now, I'm behind the youth. The youth seem to have the answer. They seem to have the perspective. They see what the elders have done and what they're doing, and they have answers to address it, and that's holding them accountable for all the actions that they're taking that is destroying the development of their country, especially in Kenya. I am so proud of these young people and their intellect, their motivation, their fire, their revolutionary objectives. We have to follow the youth. Right now, the youth seem to have the answer. I'm 62 years old. I've been waiting for this moment. And I see the spark from the influence and the youth of Kenya has ignited that revolution throughout Africa right now in several different places. And it's a beautiful thing. The youth can have that answer. You might be the youth, probably double your age. Man, I don't sound like you're pretty youthful to me. I'm here to follow. And we continue to see how the youth are organizing, see what they need, support their objective, enlighten them where you feel that they might be falling short. I'm pretty sure they're receptive to whatever that we can to enlighten them to. Like I said, I'm proud of the youth, and it's not all about us who have done things already, thinking that is the answer. It's a new generation, and they see their future being squandered by elders, and they know how to move forward with whatever they need to do to make this change. They have a lot of intellect. They with technology, they're savvy. And all we have to do is step up to the plate when they need us. If they inquire and want our assistance, we should be there to receive them. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. But thank you very much, Brother Sadiq. Indeed, we have three categories of Pan-Africans, which Nkrumah tells us: the liberals, the conservatives, and the progressives. The war the younger people are weighing is a war for the community. And it's not that the system has benefited even the older generation. It actually should not be an intergenerational war. But the system has benefited a few group of conservatives and liberals who circulate around power, no matter the age or whatever. And therefore, the war or the fight might have been started by the youth realizing and being able to overcome their fear, which Ndadema Foley is saying. But then that call upon the whole community and the whole nation to stand and rally behind the younger people, because the system do not even favor them irrespective of their ages. And rather, is a movement that we must unite our forces and support the little we can give to the younger generation. They might have the ideas, they might have the technology, but they might either need one or two resources to move here and there. We should not do something wrong, but rather we must unite, because the forces we are fighting against are uniting. And therefore, it's upon revolutionary forces to unite as well.
That's true. That's facts. That's facts. And that's exactly where I'm at, you know, and that's exactly what I actually said. And for us to be there, support you or the youth and enlighten them where they might be falling short. And that's our responsibility. And, you know, I just see it's all happening now, you know, and I'm glad that I'm able to see it in my lifetime, to see this happening. People were saying, you know, I just got back here about a week and a half ago now, if not, or just a week. And people, before I left the States, were saying, oh, you're going back to, can you see all what's happening? I said, that's why I want to be amongst. That's where the energy is. I'm not one of those who wants to be passive and sitting back, because I am the youth. I am one of those individuals who was out there for different movements and rallies and protests. That was me, you know, 40 years ago, you know. So I see my insight of what they're trying to do and what they're initiating is perfect timing. You know, they're questioning why the IMF is here, why the World Bank is as being the go-to. And it's putting us in a compromising situation. They see all of this, and it's a beautiful thing to know that this youth is enlightened to this madness that the elders is putting their country in this time. And you know, we all, I don't know how many is on this phone, but we all should be trying to find ways to support the youth, and wherever the next uprising is against the madness that is happening in that country. I yield.
Thank you. I'll go to Sister Chisomo, then Sister Shireen. Sister Chisomo, then Sister Shireen.
Hello and good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, always good presentations. May I take this opportunity to thank our brother, Mr. Sadiki. I gave him just a few minutes before the session. Actually, it had already started, and he's in. Thank you for coming. So this presentation here is exactly what is happening. I go back to Malawi again, exactly what is happening in Malawi. So, which means we need to rebrand. And I kind of feel that the rebranding has started since our vice president died. Because I think with politics, what usually happens is the same people are speaking and other people have no space to speak. So when this happened, kind of the younger generation and whoever else wasn't able to speak suddenly has risen up. They're kind of getting it, or not there yet, not as much as they should. They're kind of getting it and they are speaking. So now, like the theme is going, once I lose my fear, you lose your power, is the kind of thing that's happening at the moment. Again, not to the level that it should be, but I can see it happening, because the guy who then died used to say to people, don't fear, don't tire, and don't give up. It's going to happen. Malawi is going to change. It is going to change, so keep working at it. So that is kind of the mantra that's happening today. Every single night, there's a candlelit vigil going in every town and every district. But because of fear. It's not happening the way it's happening in Kenya, that people going to the street and voicing out. So it's kind of disguised into these candlelit sessions going on at night, and the turn-up is huge. And it's led by young people, and them coming up with a strategy to move on from how they move on from here. Although the direction is not very clear, to the extent that people are saying, oh, so what's going to happen with these candles? What's happening with these candles? What's happening with this candle? What are they going to get from these candles? But it's happening. And then you've got other people who have the knowledge, kind of, who are coming up and going into universities and the gatherings our brother was talking about, to start having these discussions. So that has begun. But because of the indoctrination that has been pumped into us, the rest of us have finally woken up, and we're already in the old age. But we always believed what our leaders were saying or doing, that the saviors are over that side. This is how things are run. This is how things, the IMF is the savior, the UN is the savior, the whoever's are the saviors. So to reverse that with people, I find it very, very difficult to even explain, even when you hear these lectures, and people are trying to explain to them how these agencies work and the impact on Malawi. Very few people are getting it. And then you try and say to them, watch what's going on in Kenya. And that's a problem again with the internet. They can restrict what people are seeing and in which regions and whatever. And it's come to my realization that Malawians are not even seeing much of what's happening in Kenya from the comments they are making when these people are speaking. And somebody did, a lot of people are now coming up just doing, what do you call them, podcasts, trying to explain to me. One of them said, it's disappointing that the kind of questions people are bringing up when they're being taught about what's going on in Malawi. You wonder why they have all these PhDs and whatnot, but they still don't get it. Maybe I should send them back to school and I'll pay your fees, kind of thing. So it's very, very becoming very challenging to convince people otherwise about these agencies, because somebody was saying, oh, forget IMF, that's not the problem. It's the corruption. Yeah, but it's starting from there. That's where the money is coming from for people to corrupt over it. So it's those kind of things. And but like you say, then it brings conflict, it gives corruption, crime is high, poverty is high, and I don't know. And the new vice president is kind of going out, because he's a very good communicator and communicates with all ages, because he's a performer, he's a comic, he's a comedian and all sorts. So he's well known. So he's going out to speak to people, going to markets, which is something that's never been done. A president or vice president going into a market to try and find out what's going on and actually look at the condition of the market. And he's trying to say, can you put your names together? I need to meet with you guys, blah, blah, blah. And people are just surprising them without giving a notice. He just turns up into a hospital the way Magafuli used to do it, although he's not taking it that far to actually dismiss people he finds offending. Okay. So he's going out and people gathering. So the second, he did it a number of times. And then the next trip, he took with him the president. Did you know people just dispersed? They never attended. So that's the change. People are beginning to understand that these people have hoodwinked us for far too long. We're not following them anymore. He had no attendees when the president tried it. So, yeah, we just have to keep talking.
I think it's getting to us. No matter how silent or subtle it is, the people are tuning their mind. The people are trying to change their mind. It's getting to their subconscious level. They're trying to make some move, and they're not afraid to make it. They're making it in the presence of whoever they were afraid to make it before. And I think that's something positive that we need to see. How do we then advance it further in a more progressive way.
Just on that question alone, I would suggest what do you call it? Country links. So Kenyans should reach out to countries like Malawi where something is happening and they need a bit of a boost or more education or awareness, and so you can share information with whoever is leading in Malawi. We've got the numbers and names if you want them, so that you're all going in one direction. Because if it keeps going the way it is, this separation, fragmentation, and suppression will continue because people are going in different directions. We are not uniting in what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Let me get to other members. Sister Sharon was here, but yes, I will tell you, like, for example, where the struggle on Kenya's reach is that majority of either the elites or the learned or those who are advanced a bit have actually used a lot of Twitter space every morning, and even now there are Twitter space going on where it's now becoming a civic education platform. People are being told the constitution, how they should be done. The president can be impeached in this process and this process. These are the procedures for recall of a member of parliament, the debt expose, these are our loans, these are what is wrong, these are what they are cheating us on, the human rights commissions. There's been a lot of civic education on media spaces, especially on Twitter, and all those spaces. Every day from morning to night, young people have been consuming a lot of education in regards to what is necessary, what is their right, what's the right of the police, what should police not do, what's the constitution saying on this. All those things have been going on, and I think it's a positive way, because when you pump the younger people the right information that is necessary, then you arm them again properly enough so that even when they go to the street, they're not only going as empty-minded, but they are armed with the information.
We have limited internet access. That's what the problem. So they don't see these things.
Okay, thank you. We'll work on that as well. Sister Shireen?
Hi, greetings, everybody. Hi, Sister Shireen from London. I just wanted to comment on the pointers that the brother before said about the youth, and just wanted to kind of ask the platform what they feel about engaging youth in their local area or their country, because it's so amazing looking at the youth in Kenya and other parts of Africa, getting together and fighting the powers that be, etc. But how do we engage the youth here so that there's a collective bridge or understanding of what is going on, because they are so distracted in the Western world. On the continent, yes, it might be tough, but there's still time. Well, this is what I perceive anyway, from my experience of spending time in the Caribbean. There is more time for family, community, self. Whereas in the West, there's so much distraction. There's so much external forces that are attracting our young people to turn away from the center. And within this, they are engaging themselves in activities that may not be beneficial to what they could give to the actual continent or that connection to it. So it's great us kind of throwing all of our attention, because that is what it should be, to what's going on the continent. But at the same time, do we leave out these Western, African, Caribbean children or alone, or how do we take them with us so that they can then join the fight? And also another pointer is that sometimes with too much information, it can also stifle the gusto or the fearlessness in a lot of people. And when we are bogged down with too much information, that then sometimes keeps us a bit too stabilized, and it actually brings in fear sometimes, because you actually understand the process. So how do we continue this fearlessness in those youth so that they can influence other youths around the world? And how do we get this information to other youths around the world also? That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Sharon. The question is to all of us, and I'll beg to request anybody who come in to contribute as I read my list to try also to answer to your question. I'll also try to answer it towards the end of this. But anybody who try to come in, can you also try to attend to what Sister Sharon is raising, which is very important as we move along. So I'll go to, I know some answers are, but let me go in the list. Once I finish, I want to ensure that everybody is able to speak just.
Thank
So
you.
Sister Hua, then I will go to Brother Francis, then General Anunnaki. Sister Tapua, in that order. I'll come back to other hands that are up, but let me go in that order and have a minute or two so that we can have everybody able to speak. We are only having 15 minutes left.
Thank you very much, everyone. Excuse my voice. I hope I'm going to last as long as I'd like to speak. I'd like to agree with one of the earlier speakers who said that we might not seem ready for unity because we don't have the structures to effect the unity. I think that's the role of the elders in the community who understand what structures they are, because the youths are reacting to what is happening to them and what they can see and what they're beginning to learn. So I think it's the role of the, in quotation marks, grown-ups who know what structures need to be in place so that we have pointers for them of where to go once they mature within the revolution. Because I'm sure they're also beginning to ask themselves, where are we going to go with these candles, as in the case for Malawi. I would also like to thank Ntate for his work, particularly on the mind, because one of the things that struck me with how effective the colonizers were was to separate the children from the adults. They would get to a community and take the children, educate them. And they glossed over it as if they were giving these children some kind of very important skills. But what they were doing, like what Chinua Achebe said, was just facilitating things falling apart and separating the minds, the young minds, the pliable minds from the old and set minds, so that like the indigenous Canadians who had the courage to not accept their own children back because they said they're not our children anymore, because being our child is having the same mindset and beliefs as we have. But unfortunately, in the African context, what we have is some of our youths, a lot of the influential people, particularly with our youths, are people who don't value being Black and being African. So we need to find ways, just like the neo-colonialists are finding ways to, for example, make the Black Americans hate being African or not want to be called African. So we need to get back to our children. And I'm going to refer here to the Zimbabwean context. The Zimbabwean political system, or the politicians in Zimbabwe, are very good at using fear. So a lot of the youths would not dare raise their heads because a lot of them have faced violence. Violence at an individual level, violence of people disappearing, or should I say that? I'm going to be in trouble. Or people allegedly disappearing or being pushed into a car and never be seen again. And it's done so subtly that what they have now done is they are now coercing, using the very same system of taking over the mind, which the colonialists did for youths. They get all these people who have got ill-gained money from places, and they're buying youths cars, buying youths big presents, So what you have now is a frenzy of some of the Zimbabwean youths aspiring to subscribe to some of the political parties for material gain, mining concessions, so that they're operating and taking over the children's minds at an individual level. They're being told to aim at what you can get, focus on the low-lying fruit. So there's this scramble for the youths to try and get whatever little they can, wherever they can. And that's splintering the youth, and it's turning their minds. So what I'm looking at here is a situation where I'm seeing parallels between UK youths and Zimbabwe youths. Zimbabwean youths have been inundated with information about how blissful being part of this political party is like. You get a job, you get this, and each time towards election, the youths are coerced into youth movements where they are, from my point of view, brainwashed. And because of the cost of data in Zimbabwe, it's really, really, really expensive. And paying for any other form of TV that's external is almost beyond a lot of the population. So what we have is snippets of information that people can afford to get from the internet if the electricity is available or if the network is working. And it's really sad. So what we're left with is working on language, because a lot of the language and behavior that you see in youths actually tells us where the 95% of their mindset is.
Okay.
So you'll find, for example, youths using language that was used by the colonialists to denigrate each other, almost like in the same way that the N-word is used, and Black people justify and say it's an affectionate expression if we use it. People are beginning to use it here. I was shocked when I came back from the UK and people were saying, "Oh, Murungu wangu, you're my white person," because you're just about to give them a job and they start referring to you as a white person. And I've been fighting against that. And I'm saying, I'm not a white person, because you guys, you threw away the whites and you got back the land from them, and you're now calling me white. What should I react to that? So you get the small battles that are going on, raising awareness at a very individual level when you meet people, but otherwise getting organized at a larger scale is difficult, but it can be done. And I think that's where we want to aim at. Yeah.
Thank you, Sister Tapua.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are having only few minutes, around 8 minutes to go. So I request the next speaker.
Sorry about that.
I request the next speakers to at least take 1 minute each. But yes, as you've said, it's been said that the greatest mind in the heart of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And changing our mind based on our financial indiscrimination or in financial status make the younger people be vulnerable to poaching and being lured, being given incentives. But I think the younger people must now live beyond that if they have actually to attain what you want, because everything needs a sacrifice. And every sacrifice is what can result us something. So thank you, Sister Tapua. Brother Francis, General Ananaki, Brother Gleroy, at least a minute or maximum 2 minutes, please. Brother Francis. Okay. Last Pala. Last Pala. Okay. Let's get to Brother Glenn. I'll come to you as we end up the class, please. I'll get back to you as I give you some few minutes to end up. Let me get to let me look at my list down here. There are people who haven't spoken. Sister Shaza and Brother Sam. Sister Ida, I'll also come back to you as we also come to an end. Let me give Sister Shaza, Brother Sam at least a minute to say something about the presentation on the discussion. Then I'll get to Sister Sharena spoken. So let's get to Sister Shaza and Brother Sam. Any of you, please, if you have something to say, a minute.
Thank you, Chair. I already put some of my inputs in the chat, but just in addition, I now realize that this study really is empowering, and it can start with you as an individual, and then take it not only in the family, but take it into the community as well. So I'm really grateful about this. But I say it reminds me of what Amilcar Cabral called return to the source, and where he says culture maketh the man. You know, the colonialists made sure that we throw away our cultures, and most of the wisdom that we have in our cultures are those empowering instruments that we need. So yes, I agree, and I have said also in the study, I mean in the chat, we need to expose most of our countrymen and women, and especially our youth, to these platforms like this. I should not come to this platform by myself. I should invite one or two other people, and so must also invite other people, so that this becomes something that is part of us in our daily lives. Thanks.
Thank you. In fact, we have been doing these studies for the last 2 years, and Brother Christian Kwame started over the last 10 years. Our number hasn't been that much. We always have 10 to 15, but we've never missed any weekend for the last 2 years. So it shows you our commitment and our conviction. And I've been sharing this link to so many groups. That's why some people maybe don't will to come, but it's yes back to us again. If you find this worth enough, let's invite our friends to join us. Let's invite the younger generation to be part of this. Sister Shaza? Also, Makodi Mokwa. Makodi, okay. Brother Gonza, maybe in a minute, something you can share. I know you came late.
I was. No, I don't have much. I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Brother Gleroy?
Yes, I was wondering earlier on in the presentation, I thought the presenter made some reference to some people are I don't think he used these words, but it sounded like there are people who are not reachable, that they're so far gone, which I just felt was a terminology that I didn't think belong in the campaign for unification. I think it may have been misheard by me or misunderstanding on my part. But I also think that we all of us who have been in the struggle, whether for a short time or a small time, should maybe look. Yes, many of the work that we're doing is continuous, and we can't judge it as being success or failure at this particular time, but it is a reality that needs to dawn on us that many of us have failed so far. And when others come along and see that failure and try to find other means to push forward, we should recognize that, because I think that what's the word, I think is phraseology, many road to Jerusalem or something of that nature. But basically, the simple fact is that we have to explore every opportunity, every path around our liberation. Malcolm said, by any means necessary, and we should bear that in mind. If our youth are trying something different, doesn't mean that they somehow are leaving behind the elders. It's their choice, it's their time. It's for them to ensure that the method they use push the struggle forward. And in that way, I very much support those people who are saying we should stand by and we should be there to help and give whatever support we can. I support that fully. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sister Ida?
Sorry, I came in late, but I do think that and I'm sorry, everybody. But I do think there are things that we should all be pushing forward for. Like, for instance, all these political murders, and I take them as political murders because of they've come straight after people marching and being out on the streets. So I think that people who commit murders like that, whether they're the army, whether they're the police, whether they're some secret force, those murders should never go off the books. You know, if they can catch the people, they should bring them to trial. And anybody in the services who are caught for doing things like that should automatically lose their pension. It shouldn't even be, apart from maybe what they paid in, there should be no pension for them. And I think that's you know, we should be speaking out for things like that, because we can't expect people to go out on the street and fight for us, and yet when they're killed, we turn their back on them. No. So anyhow, that's my my bit. And also, I'm sorry I'm making everybody late, but my other thing was, I was sad to hear that the Canadians or the Asian Indian Americans had said no to not having their children back, because I think that we as Afro-Caribbeans, wherever we're from, the only thing we have is that our color stands out, and it makes us, it should unite us, irrespective of all the things that have gone on that can make us disunited. And therefore, personally, I would say that those are the very people. I think Malcolm X often says, you know, it's the people. Malcolm X, who comes on the program often, he said something about it's the people who have been at the bottom who end up maybe you can turn around. He doesn't quite say it in that way, but I'm putting it in that way. So, thank you.
Thank you. Brother, we're already 1 minute late, but maybe a minute to you, Brother Ras.
Yes, General.
Yes.
Okay, no, my brother, what I wanted to say from my side, just to say one point in terms of presentation regarding fear. Like, for instance, here in South Africa, in the current situation we have here in South Africa, the EFF leader, Julius Malema and Zuma, cannot afford to be assassinated. They need to be alive in this time. And also, my last point is that the white elites globally have made a political error or a strategical error by employing the white people in the administration of South Africa when they know that it is falling. Now their credibility will be challenged even by the most ignorant of our parents, of the black people in South Africa. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ndadema Fole, your turn maybe to give us your last summary and your input for the presentation today. Once again, thank you for this presentation. Ndadema Fole?
Yes, sir. No, thank you very much. And thank you to all my colleagues who have been participating and sharing. Yeah, it's been a great time listening. And yeah, I can hear people are raring to do something. We need to realize, I think, that the colonizer took time to plan, to research and plan what they were going to do. And I think it doesn't mean we have to wait forever to do that ourselves, but we need to be aware that we also need to think about how they impacted us and how to undo that, because it is very important. I see a comment from Mema Tabomunse that we need to remember who we are. It is very important that we self-discover. If we don't, we'll not be able to move forward. Now, one of the challenges is that this fear that has been instilled is a sickness. And the people who have studied it say that it has not escaped. None of us is immune to it. I am not myself. I've not been immune to it. I've had my own experiences. I still experience some of it. The only fortunate thing is that I'm attentive to it. So I get to notice it when it comes up and then to deal with it. But it still comes up even with me. Brother Glenroy said he thinks he heard me saying that some people were going too far. I would never say anything like that. My work, Brother Glenroy and all my other colleagues, is actually to find out what needs to be done for us, all of us, starting with me and whoever may be sunk deeper than others, how we can redeem ourselves out of that. I could never say that anybody is gone too far. What it means to me, if I'm not able to get through to somebody, then it's a challenge to me to go and find out how best I can improve and be able to communicate with the particular individual better. What I would do is to continue sharing. I realize that we still have a lot of challenges. We still have a lot of challenges. Yes, the youth are showing that they are aware of what is happening, but I don't think we should rush ourselves to believing that what they know what they are doing, that they'll do something right. This is why we have to be researching what needs to be done. It is not a very useful thing, even though we need to take time to go about it. It is not a very useful thing for us to destroy infrastructure. Fear, excessive fear, and the way Chikwa talked about, actually makes us very violent and self-destructive. So because that is what we see, that is what they are able to do, we see them in action, and we are comfortable that, yes, they are doing something. Yes, they are aware that they need to do something, but it is our work to find out exactly how we need to help them. The sharing that I've been doing here in presentations, and all presentations do that, will not help change the way we think. It just makes us aware. What will help us to change and to be able to get to the point of uniting and collaborate, adding value to our collaborations, is actually going through the processes of changing from the hardwiring of colonization, of fear, of using the fear brain pathways more than the love brain pathway. That is what we've got to learn. And as I indicated, the people who have actually, the neuroscientists who have actually researched into this, have found out that we all have been affected, but that we also are not aware that we've been affected. Each one of us thinks that it is the other people who are affected who need to heal. And as I said, I discovered that myself, that even though at the start I thought that I was doing it to help other people to heal, as soon as I got into the processes and started attending healing sessions, I realized that I actually needed that more than anybody else. And I will be sharing, as I said, Brother Chairperson, I will be sharing the work that I'm doing. I continue to share it because I continue to discover new things. As I said, even as I present and I get feedback, I continue to learn even from the feedback. I will be continuing to share some, maybe 2 or so articles this week to try and bring light into some of the areas that maybe you are not aware of. One of the challenges, a very big challenge that even the colonizers are aware of, is that the education they have given us will not help us to free ourselves. We need to do a lot more extra in order to be able to use those technical skills. Yes, people are talking about laws, they're talking about structures. Structures are meant by us, they are meant by people. Now, if we have a structure, we have governments, they are structures. But the question is, who is manning them? What type of person is manning them? What type of mindset is this person using? And that is where we need to go to. One of the things that the complexity science people have discovered and advised us on is that the big changes that we are looking at, that we want to see in the bigger structures and organizations, are become more powerful when they are directed at the micro level. But that is something that the colonizers decided that they were not going to teach it to us. It's just a few people who specialize because they're interested in it, who get or lucky to go and learn about that. We need to learn about how our brains are structured and how they function. It is the only way that, because it is our brains, it is our minds that help us to behave, that help us to respond to our challenges. Without that, these structures that we are talking about, that the youth need to know structures. Yes, they will need structures, but those structures must first be manned properly by people who will be able to help the youth. And as I said, in closing up, structures are still there. They are there, they exist, and it's just they are structures that are not being very helpful to us. And yes, the separation that they are working on, that they are insisting on, which we also unfortunately contribute to through own self-destruction, is what we need to work against. And there are ways that we need to work on. I think
Thank you.
That my overview. But as I said, brothers and sisters, I'm continuing to write articles. Ordinarily, one would keep them for publishing a book and selling it, but I'm not doing that. Everything that I learn, I write about, I keep editing and improving, I share it. Okay. Because I don't know what I will do with the information if I just keep it until I write other books. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ndadema.
Thank you, comrade. That's what I thought you said. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. And Ndadema Fole, if there will be a need for another third session, let me know. I'll organize this. Once your papers are ready, can you also share with me so that I can circulate it within the membership who are available here, so that they can also have touch at it, look at it, and be able to work on it. I'll equally also be able to share these recordings so that many people can get back to it and be able to share it widely so that more people can also get to know whatever we are sharing here. Because actually, as you're saying, information is power. And whatever you're giving us, you are able to learn, and we are also able to learn. And in that way, we are able to build ourselves to make it more better, and we are able to get clearly to where we want to go together as a people. So permit me to thank you once again for your time, and thank all the members who have spent their time to be with us here today. As we do always. Yes.
Maybe before you close, I'm still available. I'm still accessible to people who would like to have direct contact with me.
Yes, but if you permit me, if that would be possible, as I will be sharing your article, permit me to also share your contact to those who want to get directly to you via the broadcast. Would that be okay?
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll be sharing the articles Brother Mafole is doing, and his presentation today, the recording, I'll be sharing it on Monday. And I'll also be able to share the contact and the program is running, because he's running a program on Readiness for Change. And those who might be interested, once I share the contact, please feel free to get in touch with him so that together we can build ourselves and together we can learn to free our mind and heal in order to prepare for our change. So once again, thank you very much for your time. Sorry for taking my time than usual. Our time ought to be almost 10 minutes. We are now 10 minutes late. And then Brother Joseph, permit me just to end it here because we are 10 minutes late already.
I just want to find out if it will be online or if this wasn't clarified since I asked the question on Thursday.
Ndadema Fole, I will share with you the contact of Ndadema Fole so that you can get in touch with you. Will your program be virtual?
It will be virtual.
Yes. Brother Joseph, I think that's clear. It will be virtual. So let's meet again on Thursday for our conscious reading class. We will be going on with other aspects of the society. We have been looking at Anaximander together with Thales' explanation in regards to justice, principle of justice and equality in a society. and we'll be looking at now Nfuma's perspective after sharing the two perspectives of Fales and Anaximanda. So that will be taking place on Thursday at the same time, 7 p.m. UK time. So thank you once again for your time. And on Saturday, we'll be looking at the age of candidacy. I'll be doing that presentation. Now that the younger people are coming in, how is or what is the exact age right now for young people to go for political positions? Many countries have put places and age limits for younger people to contest for different positions, but you're seeing younger people are coming more rough and more hard on this. So what is all about the age of candidacy, and we support that there must be a limit to younger people to contest in different positions while we accept them to be voters in some ages. So this is a presentation that I'll be working on and I'll be presenting next Saturday. So to thanks all of you for your attendance, those who have joined us for the first time, we really appreciate your time and sorry for taking much of your time. See you all again on Thursday and Saturday. Be blessed.
Good night and thanks to Tatemafole.
Thank you.
Peace,
Thank you,
peace. Great
Fearless.
job, brother. Great job.
Good night, everybody.